College football is back, and we're back live on the Big Mountain.
Hey, it's great to have you back again on the mountain. We apologize for missing last week, but we are live again on the Big Mountain, and we are going to be doing what we like to do, give you guys some picks, and of course, give you guys some ice-cold locks, because that's what we love to do here on the mountain. We want to welcome everybody that's here. We see JEH, we see that college football guy. New to this, I know there's a few others. Say hello in the chat. We like to have conversations with you. And I think the first topic we're going to talk about, Steve, there's going to be some people that have some opinions on this. And I'm really anxious for what you have to say. So clink, clink, clink. What's going on?
Well, as you know, JY, today we got the notice of allegations from the NCAA. Came down on Jim Harbaugh. Now, as a reminder, this is about the past recruiting violations. This has nothing to do with the stealing the signs, the scouting, all that kind of stuff, the Spygate, whatever. This is just about the recruiting violations that happened during COVID. We finally got, the University of Michigan and some of the other staff members had settled this back in April with the NCAA. But Jim Harbaugh, he likes to do things his own way, and he basically gave the old middle finger to the NCAA and said, I'm not going to cooperate. So it took them a little bit longer, and they've come down with their notice of allegations, pretty large, which also includes their punishment. So pretty large punishment, 4-year show cause penalty. A lot of people, they say, what does that really mean, a show cause? And it basically just means it's within that 4 years, there's a 1-year suspension. So anytime in the next 4 years, if someone wants to hire Jim Harbaugh, first they're going to have to give the NCAA some information or assurances that this isn't going to happen again. Okay, which I don't know how they can do that, but also if they do hire Jim Harbaugh, starting basically right away when he comes in, he is suspended for 1 full season. So what does that mean? That means if he would have come back this year and not signed with the San Diego Chargers, he would have been suspended this entire season, which is pretty massive.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And so we have a couple comments about the burgers and all that. And that's the thing, is University of Michigan, they're trying to just sell this as, he bought a guy a cheeseburger, okay? Which I get it, because most of the rules that the NCAA has are stupid. And if it was as simple as buying a hungry teenager a cheeseburger, then this would be incredibly stupid. But it really wasn't just about that. If you read the NOA, they really go into detail. I think it's 37 pages if you go through the whole thing of the allegations. And, this was back during COVID, which now, the COVID epidemic has kind of basically died out, or we learned to live with it or whatever. Sure. But this was in the early days where they were worried about safety of these kids who are mostly all minors being recruited, and the safety of the players on the current team and the coaching staff and all that. So there were restrictions on contact and all that kind of stuff that coaches they all agreed to live by. These were the rules that everybody was living by. Sure. And Jim Harbaugh and his staff blatantly violated the rules over and over again, and then also decided to basically, in the words of the NCAA, they said that he either lied straight up or gave them misleading information, and also refused to cooperate. And when the thing is when you're a head football coach of a Division I football program, or any football program that's sanctioned by the NCAA, you can't just say, I'm not going to participate in your investigation because I think your investigation's stupid. Yeah. That's not a thing. That's not something you can do and get away scot-free. So they came out, and they gave him this 4-year show cause and 1-year suspension. And that lasts August 2024 to August of 2028. And here's the thing, is a lot of people are saying, they wanted more punishment. Who cares? He's going to the NFL. Why does he care if he's suspended in the next 4 years? Well, here's the thing. This is just a precursor. People need to remind themselves, this is just about the allegations of the recruiting impropriety. This isn't about the cheating scandal. So this basically shows a pattern with Jim Harbaugh, which we've already seen that pattern, but it lays it out in detail, a pattern of Jim Harbaugh disregarding the rules, feeling like he and his program were above the rules, and then not complying with investigations. So this is like strike one, you get this punishment. 4-year show cause is still pretty hard. And I think that sets us up for what we're going to see later when they finish their investigation with the cheating scandal. Now, with that, we've seen a preliminary draft of the NOA for the cheating scandal, and the NCAA already came out firing with that, basically saying that they have confirmation that Connor Stallions was on the sideline, I think for, I don't know, well, it was on the sideline for one game and illegally pre-scouted something over 50 games. And that was current and past staff members were, whether they were involved, they were knowledgeable about it, they were passing information. We have multiple staff members that were not complying, were either deleting text messages or possibly coaching student athletes on what they should say during the investigation. And again, Jim Harbaugh refused to participate in that investigation. So yes, when we look at it, okay, a 4-year suspension, he's going to be in the NFL probably for the next 5 years, a 4-year show cause with a 1-year suspension. It kind of looks on face value like this is just a slap on the wrist or it's a meaningless penalty. But to me, this just sets the stage for what the NCAA can do with the cheating scandal. Now, when they do levy those punishments for the cheating scandal, we have no idea what those punishments will be on the school, on the University of Michigan, because Jim Harbaugh's no longer there.
Right.
But I think they've shown here that they are ready to hammer Jim Harbaugh specifically. Now, I do want to talk one last thing kind of about the cheating scandal. And, you know, a lot of Michigan fans, and I get it, they say, well, we won the Natty. What does it matter? We won it. We all saw it happen. We have that forever. And the cheating scandal doesn't matter because even after they found out about it, we still continued to play well and won that national championship. Well, here's the thing. A big part of why they were able to win that national championship last year is because they were able to keep that team together. They were one of the most experienced senior teams last year. They had all this talent that could have gone to the NFL. And a big reason they were able to keep that talent together is because they had won a lot of games the last couple of years. And a big reason for that could be, it looks like it could be cheating. I think we're going to have a graphic here. If you look at Jim Harbaugh's record at Michigan before Connor Stallions started his little reindeer games on the sidelines, he was 49-26. He had to take a pay cut from the university. He was, I think, either 0-6, I believe, against Ohio State. He lost 6 in a row.
Yeah.
And really was on, people were saying, how long is he going to be there? Is he going to be fired by them? Will Michigan actually fire the Michigan man? Well, they didn't fire him. They made him take a pay cut to continue his job. And then once he brings Connor Stallions on and lets him work his little magic tricks, they were 40-3 over the next 3 seasons.
Right.
Like it's such a stark contrast. Everybody's going to have their own opinion how much you think that cheating went in. I mean, we have video of Connor Stallions on another team's sideline getting their signs. They have evidence, payments, and tickets and all that stuff of over 50 games that he pre-scouted. We have, all this evidence that shows that they were doing this. Now, do we know how much that changed the record? No, we don't. But when you look at these records, 49-26 before Connor Stallions, 40-3 after he starts his reindeer games, it's an obvious and distinct difference. So we'll see what comes out of that. Big news today. And again, I think a lot of people are laughing this off because they say this is just a slap on the wrist. He's in the NFL and he's just going to laugh and throw the middle finger up to the NCAA. But to me, I really think this is an important precursor to what we're going to see from that Connor Stallions cheating scandal and those punishments. Now, it might be another year or so. Okay, so JEH says, wow, nice graphic. I can't take credit for the graphic. We share, if you see on there's a guy I follow on Twitter. It's Vern Funquist, CFB. So go, he's a great follow.
That's a great name.
It's a great name. Yes. Vern Funquist, CFB. His Twitter handle, I think, is on the middle of that graphic. Find him on X and Twitter and follow him. The dude is hilarious. He has all kinds of great graphics. If you're a college football fan, you will love following his account. So I got to give him credit. It was not my graphic. Vern Funquist, CFB. So pretty awesome.
So a couple other things being mentioned here. Several people just saying, yeah, not a fan of Harbaugh. Believe he's a cheater. That college football guy's cheating scandal week was just a repeat offender. I mean, clearly, I think that's the case here. And there was one other thing I thought I wanted to say, and I'm not seeing it. But yes. Anyway, I didn't follow this much today. I was busy doing other things. And I said, Steve, if we're going to talk about this, it's all you. So I appreciate you doing that. And we did get called out earlier. because we had Stanford and Notre Dame in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That was a big, massive boo-boo. I picked the wrong graphic.
Yeah.
And totally missed that there were 20 teams, and clearly Notre Dame and Stanford aren't on it. So JEH, thanks for calling it out, and I'll get it corrected for the thumbnail that goes on this episode.
I told JY that we should just play it off as we have breaking news of the 2 new members of the Big Ten, but that wasn't going to fly.
I would just say, when you look at that Connor Stallions graph, and I get how dramatic that looks and the difference in things, but there's so many other things that you can say to that. And I know you kind of said that, but he kept. I think Genetics said he had like 30 fifth and sixth year guys on that team.
Yeah.
So just all of that stuff, his recruiting, the transfer portal, all that kind of jazz, it all plays into that. But it is a pretty stark graphic when you see the numbers there, for sure.
And especially when you say it, and he's right, you have 35th and 6th year guys. That is amazing. That's like unprecedented. No one's been able to do that in the NIL era so far. But you go from, okay, we have to take a pay cut or we're going to get fired, to now we're able to keep all those guys because they all believed. I mean, their coach is standing there giving them the plays that they're going to run. So
sure, there's a lot of things that aren't directly correlated to that. But anything that provides some sort of a benefit,
right?
Again, not direct, but all of these kind of ancillary types of things. Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to Clint. He says he found our channel this week. Happy to find us, and go Pokes.
Yeah.
And I've got my shirt on. Clint, I'm going to say it now. We just got done recording an episode with Ryan Thorburn with the Pokes. And it's going to be great. I think we'll drop it on Tuesday next week. It's definitely going to be next week. I think it's about a 30-minute. I didn't even look how long we talked with him, but it was a great conversation. Ryan goes over the team and all that kind of stuff. So the two of us with Ryan deep dive into the Pokes as we gear up for the season. We also did one with Ron Counts with Boise State. That one we're going to drop on Monday. So we did 2 deep dives so far, 1 Boise, 1 Pokes. And I got a couple more irons in the fire here. We're going to try to get them done before the season starts.
Yeah, if you like Big Ten coverage and Mountain West coverage, this is the channel. So welcome, Clint.
Yeah, awesome to have you. Tell some other Pokes fans to come on the mountain. Love to have you on. So with that, are we ready to go to what we do here?
Yeah, let's do it.
What we love to do here, making some picks and predictions. Tonight we've got over and under wins for the Big Ten.
All Big Ten teams plus Florida State.
That's right. The school that you think is going to be the 19th member. We've said that many a time. But we're doing all Big Ten teams plus Florida State. And I'm going to be doing all Mountain West teams. Warning, I didn't do the Beavs and the Cougs. I apologize to JEH and Squeeze Money and anybody that is a Beav and Coug fan. I did not get them in this, but we will be predicting their games this year. Just didn't do their over and under wins. I don't have a good enough handle in order to do that. But we're doing everyone. We're definitely going to do the Pokes, and we're going to start with the Big Ten.
Yeah, and as a reminder, like you said to everybody, the reason we started this channel is we always like to share betting picks with each other. It was a lot of fun, and you said, let's do a YouTube channel. So we went ahead and did it. We started it last summer, and honestly, if people took our preseason over and under bets, you had a lock. You locked the Pokes to go over. I did some picks, and if you did that last year, you made some money. So let's go ahead and do that again this year.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Because I did shout-outs to the Boise preview. I did shout-outs to the Pokes preview. And tomorrow, thank you, Genetics. We appreciate you enjoying our Rohan video breaking down kind of where we are at right now with the FSU lawsuits.
Yep.
But we pulled Doug in, and we pulled TJ in from, what is it? Double Fries No Slaw.
Yeah.
His podcast. We pulled them both in with the 2 of us. So 4 of us do an FSU Seminole preview that will drop tomorrow. It's a lot of fun. Doug's a great guy. TJ's a great guy. I was happy he could join us as well. So for anybody that's an FSU fan, or if you're just interested to hear about how you think FSU is going to do this year, we have a preview of their season dropping tomorrow.
Yes.
I can't believe I forgot that.
It was very exciting. Great episode. Both of those guys are, Doug is great. Great FSU fan. He's an FSU booster. He's a lawyer. He's plugged in with everything you need to know. And TJ, was it Pettinger?
Pittinger.
Yeah,
Pittinger.
I follow him on X. If you're interested in Florida State, you need to be following him on X. And he was great on the show. He gave us some great information.
He's got a really good microphone.
He does.
We got to up our game to
and he's got a good radio voice.
He does sound like a radio.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Now that I've waited long enough, let's get to
Let's rock and
some
roll.
picks.
So Big Ten, I'm going to do every single team in the Big Ten over and under picks. We took these lines from FanDuel. They're the current. I checked them all today. The current lines from FanDuel, and I'm giving you my over and under picks. I've gone through the schedule. I went through every game in the Big Ten season, analyzed it, and came up with actual win totals that we're going to do another episode. And tonight, I'm giving you my over and under on every single team. I may give you a little bit of flavor on each team.
That's going to be hard for me to do because we're doing these over-unders and we're going to do standalone episodes, recorded episodes for the Big Ten. And
that's going to be where we
do
do more in-depth.
Where we do a lot more in-depth. So I'm going to try not to let too many cats out of the bag tonight as we do this and save it for those preview episodes. Those will be out next week too because as new to this says, 17 days wait and we're running out of freaking time to get this stuff out.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right.
So Illinois, the over and under on FanDuel is 5.5. I'm going over. I looked at their schedule. A lot of this with Big Ten teams, and JY, you and I were talking about this. A lot of people, I think Vegas and just people, bettors in general, they're looking at the teams and they're coming up with their line based on where they think the team is. And a lot of people are assuming we got rid of divisions now, everybody in the Big Ten is going to have an equal schedule. Well, it's just not true. When you do a deep dive into these schedules, some teams have a ridiculously easy schedule and some teams have really hard schedules. So Illinois, I think they're status quo. They'll see this. They'll stay the same. I see them winning 6 or 7 games, being bowl eligible. Their schedule is just not terribly difficult. So I'm going Illinois over 5.5. Moving to Indiana, this is a team I'm going to talk a lot more about when we do our preview. The expectations are low for Indiana. They're also at 5.5 games. They have a pretty easy schedule. So the line on them on Indiana is 5.5. The new coach, Kurt Signelli. They brought in, is it Tanner Rourke from Ohio? I forget his first name. Rourke from Ohio is their.
No, it's Curtis.
Curtis Rourke. Okay, Curtis Rourke from Ohio. Was a great G5 quarterback last year. I think he's going to do fantastic things, especially working in Signetti's system here. And I really like him. And again, Indiana, easy schedule. They are going to breeze past that 5.5 games, I think. So I have them hitting the over. Indiana over 5.5.
I'm anxious to hear your preview on them when we get to that episode.
Me too. Okay. So Iowa, another team. Iowa somehow had the worst offense in the history of man last year and still managed to win 10 games, double-digit wins. The line on them is 8.5. And again, I think Vegas and a lot of bettors are assuming, they're not in the West anymore. They're going to have a tough schedule. Well, here's the deal. Because of their rivalries that they have already set up, their protected games, they're basically playing a Big Ten West schedule again.
Yeah.
I see them probably cruising to either hitting that double-digit wins again or getting very close. So I'm taking Iowa over 8.5.
Okay.
Maryland, 6.5 is the line here, which I think is pretty fair. They lose a ton of production. I mean, they lose the all-time leading passer. Talia is gone, all-time leading passer in the Big Ten. He was basically their offense last year.
He was. And then people started crapping all over him at the end of the season. And I'm going, you daggone fans don't know what you're talking about because he's all you got.
Yes. They lose their best offensive player. They've lost their best defensive player. Went to Michigan. The linebacker, I forget his name. It begins with a B. But anyways, they lose a lot this year. The line on them is 6.5, and I think again a lot of people are assuming, they got away from the Big Ten East,
right?
They're going to have an easy schedule. It's not when you look at their schedule. So I have Maryland under 6.5 for the year.
Wow. Okay.
Michigan. Michigan's the line is 8.5. Everybody expects them to drop a little bit, but maybe still contend, be an outside playoff contender.
Yep.
They lose a ton especially on offense. They still have a strong defense. Last year they really benefited from having a butter soft schedule, which allowed them to get through a lot of the suspensions and everything towards the beginning of the season to really build into that national championship team. This year, the exact opposite. They play Texas early to start the season. They have a pretty tough schedule overall. The line on them is 8.5. I'm going under 8.5. I think I actually have them at 8 wins. I see
so just under.
Just under. It's not by a lot, but I'm going with them under. I have 4 losses. I really think they're going to lose 4 games. I think minimum of 4 games. So I'm going under 8.5 for Michigan. And I know that's going to be scandalous to some people. They're the defending national champions, whatever. but I have Michigan under 8.5.
You're crapping all over them tonight.
I am.
You started out with Harbaugh,
Yep.
and now you're just telling them they're going to be under 8.5.
Yeah, I don't
Hey,
see.
we keep it real though.
Our OSU fan Joey,
yeah.
I don't see him on here tonight. He would be loving this. Hopefully he catches it later. But I'm just being honest. These are my betting picks. This is where I'm going to put my money down.
Right.
This isn't about whether I like the team or don't like the team. This is where I'm putting my money.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to give the best picks to our audience that I can.
Our biases were at the door on this.
Yeah, I mean, money's
Homer,
money.
hats off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Michigan State. They're rebuilding. I won't even say the name of the coach that they brought in, because we got some Beavs fans here. They're rebuilding. They lost. They did bring some people over, but they lost a lot of talent. And again, I think people think, okay, they're not in the Big Ten East anymore, but they have a pretty tough schedule.
Yeah.
When you look at their schedule, the line is only 4.5 on them, and I think that line is pretty fair. But when I went through it, I actually only had them winning 4 games. So I'm going Michigan State under 4.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's going to make some people happy.
I think so. Yeah, I think JEH will be happy
is
with
going
that.
to go woohoo here in about 2 seconds.
Now, to be honest, I think going forward in the future, I think that coach will do well there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
they have
right.
some. But for this year,
Right.
Under 4.5.
Okay.
Okay, Minnesota. I've been tough on them.
No. He disagrees.
Oh, he says 0-12. Okay.
Well, that's under. You picked the under, so
yes,
we're good.
yeah. So we're good, JH.
Yeah,
Under.
okay.
Okay, Minnesota, row the boat, PJ Fleck, the guy gives a great speech. He looks great on TV when they're talking to him and he gives great answers or whatever. He's really struggled the last few years. I really question how things are going to, and I like him. He's a good guy. The line on Minnesota is 5.5 this year. They lost a lot of players. They really haven't brought in good talent. That's really where PJ Fleck has struggled, is the recruiting. I just don't see things getting better. They have kind of a tough schedule where they play a lot of teams that are maybe similar to them, but I think just a little bit better than them.
Yeah.
So I have them hitting under 5.5 games. Okay, Nebraska, Big Red. The line on them is 7.5. I think that 7.5 is criminally low. When you look at their schedule, there's no way that Vegas actually looked at their schedule when they gave them a line of 7.5 wins. I'm definitely taking the over. I think they'll improve a little bit from last year. And so that, Matt Rule, he always shows improvement, especially in that second year. There's usually a big jump in his second year.
Yeah.
I like the talent they brought in. And honestly, I like their team last year. They had terrible quarterback play, so if they get a little bit better quarterback play, and when you look at their schedule, it lines up. They have one of the easier schedules in the Big Ten, so definitely going over 7.5. I thought about making this a Big Mountain Ice Cold Lock, but I'm not ready to go that far yet.
Okay.
But I love the over 7.5 for Nebraska.
I was going to ask because I teased some people on X. I said we got some ice cold locks coming tonight, so this isn't one yet.
No.
I know you're going to have at least one coming up,
Yep.
and I'm going to have at least one coming up.
Yep.
But man, you sound mighty confident.
I was
tonight.
really close to
Okay, so you're it's still freezing. The water's freezing on this ice cold.
I'm going to look at some more training camp reports. I want to see Dylan Raiola, the new quarterback there, how things go.
Okay.
So I may at a later date. I'm going to hold that thought or
Okay.
hold my ability to change it to an ice cold.
You only got
lock.
You only got 2 weeks left.
I know.
Or maybe 3. They don't play week 0, do they?
I don't think so.
Whatever. But for those that saw our CFP not preview, but predictions,
Yep.
you had Nebraska in the playoff.
Yeah.
That's how confident you are in this team this year.
And I'll talk about that a little bit more
Okay.
when we do our
The full previews.
Yeah,
Okay.
per team breakdown. But yes, I'm high on Nebraska this year, and especially I'm high, that line 7.5. I think is just criminally low.
Okay.
All right, so moving forward, Northwestern. This one might hurt your heart a little bit. Okay.
Don't do it.
Northwestern, they overachieved last year. The coach was the coach of the year. It was they had a great season last year. They tore down their stadium. They're going to be playing in a high school stadium. Basically, it looks like a high school stadium right next to Lake Michigan. There, I think it's their practice stadium, or maybe it was their lacrosse field or something. It looks great, and I think it'll give them some home field advantage. Actually, playing right next to the windy lake, just near Chicago.
Yeah.
But they overachieved last year, which means they did a lot. Their record ended up being better than what the talent on the team should have been. And honestly, they lost some of that talent, unfortunately. They weren't able to keep that all together. I think that, they're gonna come back to, like, you have like the average and the mean or whatever. I think they're gonna come back to the mean this year, unfortunately, and underachieve. Vegas only has them at 4.5, and I know it's gonna hurt your heart, and maybe I'll be wrong. And
I will turn you again, because I this past year you were crapping all over them.
Yep.
They're starting to win, Steve.
Yep.
They're looking pretty good. I even bought you a hat.
You did, and I wore it a few times on the show.
Yes,
but I got to go the under. That's where I'm putting my money. Under 4.5 wins for Northwestern. Rough for them, I know. Okay.
Hey, and just do me a favor. If you pick them ever this year, just wear your Northwestern hat.
I will.
Okay.
I will. I'll wear a Northwestern hat at least one time this season.
Good.
Okay. All right, Ohio State. Here's the thing. On paper, Ohio State has maybe one of the best rosters that I've ever seen. They recruit so well. They use the portal. They have all the talent in the world. We've talked about Ryan Day many times. We both think he's a good offensive mind and play caller. He hasn't quite gotten a job done yet. Now, some of that may be highly affected by how we led the show with the Michigan cheaters. Affecting their winning as well. I don't know how much of that affected it, but Ryan Day hasn't gotten the job done as the way Ohio State fans expect and demand. But I think he gets it done this year. I mean, if he can't get it done this year, then it's never going to happen at Ohio State. They have all the talent in the world. The line is 10.5 on them. I'm very comfortable going with the over. Could they? I mean, they're going to be favorite in every game they play, even the two toughest games on the road, at Oregon, at Penn State. They get to host Michigan at the end of the season this year. I'm pretty comfortable going over 10.5 with them. I see them comfortably winning 11 and possibly even 12 games.
Yeah, that's the safe pick. I mean, it's great. I know 10.5. When you start seeing 10.5, you're going, oh, can they do it? But man, I think that's the safest. For them to be 9-3 would be
crazy.
It would be well, I shouldn't say 10. 9-3.
Or no, they could go 10-2.
Sorry, 10-2.
But when you look at it, is it more likely they go 11-1, 12-0, or 10-2? And I think it's more likely that they finish one of those top two.
Right.
So I'm comfortable taking the over. I'm not betting the house on it.
I understand.
Yeah. Okay.
Clearly, I'm slow with my math tonight,
it's all
which
good.
is never good if we're doing picks, but that's okay.
That's all right. Okay, Oregon, similar circumstance. Very talented team. Dan Lanning, love the coach, love the way he builds the program. There's some questions about him on game day situations, but you know how to get rid of those questions on game day situations? The best way to get rid of them, that's what Kirby Smart did in Georgia, is just be way better than the other team, and it doesn't matter what your game day decisions are. And that's what Kirby did down in Georgia. I think that Dan Lanning has the chance to do that in Oregon this year. They get to host Ohio State. If they can beat Ohio, if they can pull off that win against Ohio State, to me, they have a very good chance of going 12-0. And even if they lose that game, when you look at the rest of their schedule, unless Boise State upsets them early in the season, I think they do have I think they go to Michigan. They have a couple other, but I see them winning 11 or 12 games, so I'm very comfortable taking the over 10.5 for Oregon. Okay, Penn State. Okay, well, I'll call this a similar story, just not at the same level as Ohio State and Michigan and Ohio State and Oregon. They're one step below, and it makes sense because their line is 9.5. I see them getting to 10 wins. I try not to be a homer pick because I'm putting my money on this.
Sure.
So I look at what's realistic. I really think it's realistic for them to get to 10 or 11 wins. They don't play Michigan this year. They don't play Oregon. They host Ohio State at home. They're catching Washington on a down year, catching UCLA on a down year. They start the season at West Virginia, which could be tough. They go to USC, which could be tough. But I see them winning double-digit games, so I'm comfortable. I'm not going to bet the house, but I'm comfortable taking over 9.5 for Penn State. Any comment on that? Am I being a homer?
No, that's where you were last year, and I think their line's going to continue to be 9.5, and I think they're going to continue to be the over at 10. And until they can prove that they can be 11 or 12 is crazy, but they can actually beat the top of the pack. That's just where they're going to end up year after year after year. So. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, there's not much more to be said about it.
Agreed. Okay, so Purdue. Last year, I was dead on Purdue. We made a lot of money last year on picking Purdue to lose last year. there was a lot. Vegas was giving them the credit from the year before of being
right.
in the Big Ten championship game, being the Big Ten West champions. So we made a lot of money on Purdue last year. Here's the thing, Purdue, I think they're going to continue to struggle. The line is 4.5. But here, you look at their schedule from last year, look at their schedule from this year. I think Purdue could be a little bit better than they were last year, but they have a harder schedule.
Yeah.
So when I look at their schedule, I only had them winning, I think, 3 games.
Okay.
Actually 2 when I broke down their schedule. I only had them winning 2 games.
Wow.
I think they're going to struggle this year. It's hard there. It's hard to win. I have them under 4.5, and I feel a little bit bad, but I feel comfortable with that under 4.5. Could I see them getting to 4 wins, like 2 to 4?
Right.
But really, I really have a hard time when you go through their schedule and say, are they going to beat this team? Are they going to beat that team? I have a hard time seeing them getting over 4 wins. So I'm going with Purdue under 4.5.
Couple quick. I'm going to give you a break.
Okay.
Take a drink.
All right.
We have a couple comments here that I'm going to go through. So we're pronouncing Oregon wrong, apparently. It's Horrigan.
Oh, Horrigan.
Yeah,
Okay.
says Brent. And we appreciate Brent giving some other comments here. He's got Purdue up at 5-7. But that college football guy says Purdue's the worst team in the Big 12. Or Big 12. Big 10.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had definitely a little bit of a difference of opinion in the chat here. And, of course, we had a big fat boo from our buddy JEH on the Horrigan line that you gave.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, that happens,
So for me, I have this year. There's a little debate on who's the worst team. That college football guy says Purdue is the worst team. Brent thinks Purdue will win 5.
Yeah.
Look at their schedule and tell me what their 5th win is going to be.
Okay.
That's a little tough. But I have Minnesota, Northwestern, Washington, and another team we're going to get to, Michigan State, along with Purdue as being the worst teams fighting for that lowest wins.
Well, who's the lowest, I think, in terms of the odds are UCLA, Purdue, and Michigan State.
They're all at 4.5. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So moving right along, Rutgers. If you for our mountain dwellers that have been watching the show, I gave an early, mid-July, early July?
Yeah, several weeks ago.
Yeah, I gave an early ice cold lock on Rutgers. The line is 6.5. It's stayed there. Again, you look at their schedule and they really benefited. Some of the other teams didn't benefit so much from the change. They really benefited from the change. Their schedule is just very easy. I think they've continued to improve. And when I go through and I break down their schedule, there's 6.5 is criminally low. So I gave a Big Mountain ice cold lock for Rutgers over 6.5. So that was a Big Mountain ice cold lock, Rutgers over 6.5.
The first ice cold lock of the year for
Yes.
us was when you did that, and we're gonna have a few more today. And we have a new logo for our ice cold locks.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're stepping
Oh,
our
I
game
see
up.
it. We got
You
it up
see
there.
We
Yes.
got it up there.
Very nice.
Crunch. All right. So you are you got about 5 left, 4 or 5 left.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to move right along. So UCLA, they're rebuilding. I think it's Deshaun Foster is their coach. He had a little funny moment at the Big Ten Media Days, but I don't really put much stock into that. The big thing with them, their best quality last year was their defense. Well, they lost their defensive coordinator. They lost some more players. They have a new coach. He's totally rebuilding, and he may do a great job going forward. But the line on them is 4.5. They kind of have a murderous schedule. When you go through and you look at it, they have a tough schedule. One of the harder schedules in the bit. Like, welcome to the Big Ten. Here is an absolute craptastic schedule for you to play. So I'm going with UCLA under 4.5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
All right. So my next team. This is one of your favorite teams to kind of hate on.
Yeah, I don't really know why. I just feel like they're always they always get the benefit of the doubt. They just seem like they're always like the Cinderella, not Cinderella. They're always the favorite, and everybody likes them, and they're always people think they're better than they always are.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I think it's the name, it's the brand. They get all this talent.
You know what else I don't like about them? I'll tell you the honest reason.
What's that?
Because their band wears their damn sunglasses.
There you go.
I
there you
freaking
go.
hate it.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
nothing to do with football.
USC, the line on USC is 7.5. Lincoln Riley gets all this credit. I mean, and he's had Heisman Trophy winners. He gets all this credit for being the quarterback whisperer. But really, since he's gotten to USC, what has that gotten them in terms of wins? Not a lot. The line on USC is 7.5. I think USC is actually a decent team. I don't know that they're ready yet this year to compete for that Big Ten title, but I think that they're actually going to be pretty good, pretty decent. The line is 7.5. I feel comfortable. I went through their schedule. I think they win 8. They might win 9 games, honestly. So I'm comfortable going over 7.5 for USC.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
I couldn't pick their over no matter what the number was. Anyway, and you're calling them wrong too. According to JEH, they're the Toe Jams.
The Toe Jams.
Yeah, he knew who we were talking about before we even said it.
The Toe Jams.
All right.
I like it.
They're the somethings. They don't do anything for me.
Washington Huskies. Okay, that was your team last year.
It was.
And you were on them and you rode them all the way to the national championship game. They had a fantastic season, one of the best seasons they've had in years and years. But unfortunately, they lose their coach. They lose a ton of talent. A lot of talent went to the NFL. You had transfers. They're in a total rebuilding mode. But they're still getting a little bit of credit from Vegas. Yep. Vegas has a line at 6.5. Has them being basically a winning team making a bowl.
Yep.
I went through their schedule. There's no way I could find to beat 6.5. They have to get to 7 wins. Went through their schedule. There's absolutely nowhere I could find 7 wins. I actually have them winning 4 games this year. They could win 5 or 6. Again, total rebuild mode. They have a tough schedule coming into the Big Ten. So I have Washington under 6.5, and I feel pretty confident about it. Okay, Wisconsin.
What a dramatic change.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and I said it, we've said it several times. I would have loved to have seen, not a knock against the Pack, but last year's Washington team playing in the Big last year. You're going to see it with Oregon this year. I would have liked to have seen it with Washington last year.
Totally agree. It's a shame. It would be so much fun this year if we have last year's Washington team coming into the Big Ten this year. But unfortunately, they don't have. They're a shell of themselves, and there's no shame on them because I think they'll get back and they'll rebuild again. I like their coach coming in there. But for this year, they're going to struggle, and I have them Washington under 6.5.
Okay.
So moving on to Wisconsin. So Wisconsin is another team where I like their coach, Luke Fickell. I think he was a good hire, especially for that program and what they're trying to do. Wisconsin's not trying to be USC. They're not trying to be that flashy team. They're just trying to be a solid Midwest team, run the ball, play good defense, all those kind of things. They did bring in a kind of a different version of the air raid scheme this last year. Didn't work out so well. Wisconsin is another team where I think they could be slightly better this year, show some improvement, but have a worse record. They have a tough schedule. The line is 6.5, and I'm going under with Wisconsin. Actually, just under by a little bit. And honestly, I think 6.5 is a good line for them because I could see them being 6-6. I could see them winning one more. I could see them winning one less. But I decided to go with the under 6.5 for Wisconsin. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they ended up in the 5 to 6 win range.
Okay.
Which hopefully that doesn't. I don't want to see Luke Fickell lose his job. Because like I said, I think they could be better this year. Be a better team overall. But as you go through that schedule, it's tough to find a lot of wins.
Yeah.
So I have Wisconsin under 6.5. That's my last Big Ten team.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned earlier, I decided this year, I've put my marker down. I think that Florida State is going to be the 19th team in the Big Ten. I don't think it's going to happen as soon as Florida State fans want it to be. But I really see them coming into the Big Ten. So we've kind of adopted them this year like we did the Beavs and the Cougs last year. So I'm picking the Florida State over and under, and every week this season I will be making a pick on every Florida State game this year. So I've been trying to really brush up. I enjoyed that episode we did with the FSU guys.
Yep.
And I'm going with Florida State. The line on them is 9.5. Okay, which makes total sense. It has them right around the Penn State range. But when you look at their schedule, they do have. I think they travel to Notre Dame early. They play Georgia Tech early. They have Clemson. I think they absolutely destroy Florida this year. They're playing in the ACC. I went through and I looked at their schedule, and I think I really feel confident about them going over 9.5. They could be a 12-0, 11-1 team, honestly. I think it's more likely that they're a double-digit team than they only win 9 games. So I'm comfortable taking the over on Florida State. So I'm taking Florida State over 9.5.
Okay. Yeah, I like that pick. I mean, they are I don't want to give anything away. I was going to talk about what we talked about.
Yeah.
You can see that episode tomorrow. But TJ and Doug do a great job of explaining why they also think they'll be over. I'll leave it for that. If you guys are interested, check out our information on that tomorrow, our episode on that tomorrow. So, before I get into the Mountain West, I want to just say that in 2 weeks, Steve, 2 weeks from tonight, our live episode, it'll be the first time we're giving picks on games, because that'll be the Wednesday before week 0. And it's going to be our anniversary episode. In 2 weeks, we will have our 1-year anniversary of the Big Mountain. We've been through a whole year, and we're back to why we started this, making picks on games of the Big Ten and the Mountain West. We want to invite you guys all, and anybody that's watching this after the fact, come on live in 2 weeks. We're going to be giving stuff away. I've got some goodies on order. I haven't received them yet. I want to give them out to some of our mountain dwellers. And yeah, I'm excited. So if nothing else, come back and maybe you'll win some free swag from the Big Mountain.
Let's do it. It's amazing. It's been a year, and we're going to talk more about it that night. But again, it's been almost a year. It's been amazing. It's been a fun ride. I'm thankful that you convinced me to do this. You corralled me into doing this. It's been a lot of fun. We have a great group. I mean, every time we do these live episodes, our mountain dwellers are here. It's awesome. So it's been a lot of fun.
And I mean, 2,100 subscribers. If you would have told me that a year ago from today, I just remember being like, as long as we get like 10, 20 people watching our shows, I'll be pretty happy. And it's gone crazy, and it couldn't be happier with how the first year went.
We had multiple episodes over 15,000 views. I think one of them was 17 or 18,000 views was our most watched episode. So again, we appreciate it. It's been fun.
All right. Well, with that, we will get to the Mountain West, and I'm going to go in alphabetical order because, as I said last time, when I don't have any order to go in, I just go alphabetically. Yeah. So, and this is easy because Air Force is clearly A, and that's number 1. Their over/under is 6.5 for their wins, and their schedule, especially their out-of-conference stuff, is just easy. Like, and I'm not really high on Air Force this year. But man, it's 6.5. That's an easy over. I mean, you just got to take Air Force. For them to be under, they're 500, 6-6. They haven't been 500 or less. I think it's been once over the last 15 years. There's no reason to not pick the over here with Air Force. They don't have Boise. They don't have UNLV. They get Fresno at home. And but they are at Wyoming. So maybe one of the hardest games for them is at Wyoming. They're out of conference. Of course, they get the service academies. They get Army, Navy. And you never know what's going to happen in those crazy games. But Army, Navy. They've got Oregon State because of the scheduling agreement. You're going to hear me talk a lot about Oregon State and Washington State here with out of conference for the Mountain West. They also have Merrimack. Ooh, be careful. And they have Baylor. So, okay, they got Baylor and they got the service academies. But they don't have a very difficult Mountain West schedule here, without having Boise and UNLV. So I'm over the 6.5 for Air Force.
Love it.
Let's go to Boise. Everyone's picking Boise to win the Mountain West. They're at 9.5. If anyone remembers, I took them at 8.5. My goodness, Steve, a month and a half ago when the lines first came out, they came out at 8.5. I went, that's crazy. So I took them at 8.5, but I'm going to pick them tonight. They're at 9.5. I'm still going to pick them at the 9.5. They don't have Fresno, so another one of what I would say one of the top teams in terms of out of conference. They start off with Georgia Southern, going down to Georgia Southern. They also have Oregon, as you mentioned. They have Portland State, Wazoo, and Oregon State. So they get both teams because they had already one scheduled for out of conference, and then because of the scheduling agreement, they get the other one. They are at Wyoming and at UNLV. So if I'm going to take two places within conference where they could have a slip up, at Wyoming, at UNLV, watch out for those two games. But I'm going to take the over here. I'm taking the over 9.5. I think they should easily, I hate to say easily, they should be a 10-win season. I think they could sniff an 11-win season. And I think having them at 9-3 would just be disappointing for them. It could happen, but they want much more out of this season than that. So I'm over 9.5. But my pick long ago, and so anything I talk about here on forward is going to be 8.5 because I got that a month and a half ago. I threw my money on that.
Love it. Can we take a quick break?
Take a break.
Okay. We had some people after we talked about Florida State asking some questions about DJU and whatever. Do you just want to tell them again one more time? We have that Florida State preview episode. When's that going to hit?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, we have a preview episode. I see Joe's on here. I'm not sure who else was talking, but we have a preview episode tomorrow that's going to drop right around 11 a.m. Eastern time. And we have TJ from Double Fries No Slaw, and we've got Doug Rohan on, and they give us the lowdown on everything, and we talk DJU. We also talk other transfers that they brought in. So we're not going to give you the answer tonight because they know way more about it than us. They will give you the answer on that tomorrow.
They're the experts. They gave us the skinny on DJU. They gave us the skinny on the other transfers, like you talked about the defense and about the schedule and about, does Florida State have a chip on their shoulder coming off of next year? They said some really interesting things. You guys should definitely watch that episode.
Yeah, and Brent says that's an optimistic line for Boise State with a new head coach. Again, we're going to drop on Monday a discussion we had with Ron Counts. He's with the Idaho Statesman. I'm confident in them being above 9.5. Again, my pick was 8.5. I think 8-4 would be just an abysmal season for them. I don't see it happening. Massive offensive abilities and very much improved in the secondary. But you can check that episode out if you want to hear more about where Boise's at this year.
And do they really have a new head coach? I mean, the guy took over halfway through last season, led them through the end of the season where they played great, led them into the bowl game.
Right.
So yes, technically new head coach, but is he really?
And he was with the team.
Yeah.
He moved up through Boise. He's a Boise guy. We talk about that as well. So who we got? We're at Colorado State, a team that's getting some love in terms of the kind of watch out for this team. Moving into this year with the Mountain West, it was kind of UNLV last year. I had some people going, hey, watch out for UNLV, and those people were correct. I mean, UNLV had a great season. I'm hearing a little bit of that, not as much chatter with Colorado State this year. I've said before, they just got to show it to me before I jump on that train. Yes, they have a decent offense. I still question their defense. They don't have Boise, but they're at Fresno State and at Air Force, two very difficult games for them. Their out of conference is Texas, Colorado, North Colorado, UTEP, and Oregon State. So 6.5. I'm going to go over by the skin of their teeth. I like them at 7 probably. So I'm going to take the over at 6.5 and 7, maybe 8 if they have a good year. But I don't see them being much over that 6.5. And then let's go to Fresno, the team that you were really banging the drum about. You're going to be surprised here. 7.5 is the over/under for wins for them. I'm taking the over. I think they're well over 7. They're at Air Force and they're at UNLV. UNLV's not a difficult place to play, but it's a good team that they're going to be traveling to. But they don't have Boise or Wyoming this year for the Bulldogs. You're going to hear me repeat this. For these teams that I think are going to be in the top 5 of the Mountain West, they don't play each other a lot. Yep. And that could wreak havoc. Preview of my preview in terms of who I think is going to be in the Mountain West Championship game. Ooh, we could have a 3-way tie, Steve. I'll let the cat out of the bag. 3-way tie possible.
So, real quick question on that. Do you agree with me that out of the top teams in the Mountain West, that Fresno State has the easiest schedule or the easiest path to get to the championship game without giving away too much?
They have one of the easiest paths. With the team that they have and the schedule that they have, yes, they definitely have a very good path to do it. Yep, for sure. And their out of conference is Michigan. You've talked about that at the very beginning of the season. They also play Sacramento State, New Mexico State, Washington State, and who's the other one? I wrote something down wrong. I'm not sure who the other one is. I wrote it down wrong. So yes, I am over. So Steve, that's my first 4 picks here. I'm over wins on all 4 of them. And I'm going to tell you, I'm over 8 of 12 teams. I'm picking the over.
It doesn't surprise me. You're going to get to Wyoming at the end.
They're at the end.
I think they're a good example, but in general, I think again, I don't know that when Vegas, when they're picking the over and under numbers, that they really look they break down the schedule for these teams. And I think Mountain West specifically, just kind of a little bit of disrespect. They're not focusing. They're just like, oh, YO, they finish around 500 every year, maybe a little bit better. We're going to make the line 6.5. Like, I don't know that they're doing a real in-depth look on these Mountain West teams.
There's a lot of 4, 5, 6.5. I mean,
Right.
the only majorly aggressive one is 9.5 for Boise, and then we're going to get to a few that are 2.5. Other than that, they stick them right there around 500 and go, yeah, we don't know.
And for our bettors, I think I saw Oregon now allows sports betting. There's been more and more states that have been allowing it. This is a time that you can pick up value.
Oh, yeah.
You got major value last year on Wyoming. You locked them in. I got some really good value last year. So this is the time. It's always fun to do the weekly games to get your money right away.
Yeah.
But, man, can you get some value on these early season, the over and under picks?
For sure. Well, I'm going to continue my over trend. I'm going to Hawaii. They're 5.5, again, right there around that 500 mark. They get UNLV and Boise at home. I talked last year about there's always a slip up. Some team slips up when they're traveling to Hawaii. I'm not saying it's going to be Boise or UNLV necessarily, but there's always that upset because of the travel, because they're in Hawaii, because of whatever you want to say it is. They're out of conference is Delaware State, which was a late ad. They had to pull in. I can't remember who backed out. Was it Oregon? I shouldn't say because I don't remember. But it was a late ad for Delaware State. They got UCLA, Sam Houston, Northern Illinois, and Washington State. So they're out of conference is not difficult at all. And now UCLA is decent. I know you're down on them, but yeah, you got to look at the schools we're talking about.
This is a great year to play UCLA.
Great year to play. And they got Sam Houston, Northern Iowa, and Wazoo, who's going to be solid, but they're not the Wazoo of last year. Yeah. And so they're out of conference is not difficult. They're in conference again, no Boise and so I'm over 5.5. They've got a great quarterback out there, one of the best in the Mountain West. So I'm over, not by much. Again, kind of like CSU. I'm right at the skin of the teeth here, getting that over, but I'm over. Let's get to an under. San Diego State. I know I have a fan on X. He keeps telling me I have to turn around on this. And yes, are they going to be better than last year? Yes, 100% they will be better than last year. They're 5.5 is their over-under wins. I have to take their under right now. I think they will be better, but it's going to take some time. And there's some darn good defenses in the Mountain West. I know their offense is going to be better, but they lost a lot of talent on defense as well. They're at Boise. They're at UNLV. They're at Wyoming. Ay, caramba. Those are tough. Boise and Wyoming, very difficult places to play. They do have a difficult schedule. Out of conference, Cal, Oregon State, Central Michigan, Washington State, and Texas A&M Commerce. For them to be over, for them to hit 6 and be a 500 team, in my opinion, they'd have to win 3 of these 4 games. I'm going to give you 4 schools. In my opinion, they'd have to win 3 of them to be over. Wazoo, Oregon State, Hawaii, and Utah State. I just don't see them beating 3 of those 4.
No.
I don't see it. So I'm sorry, Aztec fans. I'm under 5.5 for you this season. Another school that I think is going to struggle this year, one of probably the hardest in-conference schedules in the Mountain West, San Jose State. They are at 4.5, which is a little surprising. They had a very good team last year. And so I will say, I think Vegas maybe got this line somewhat right, given the team that they had here the past few years. So 4.5 is the line. Here's who they play in conference, Steve. Boise, Fresno, UNLV, Wyoming, Air Force, Colorado State. I mean, that's like the top half of the Mountain West, and then they get Nevada.
Weren't they the one they had a complaint last year about they didn't
get into the Mountain West Championship.
So the Mountain West, they said, okay, we see your complaint and we raise you the toughest schedule in the league next year.
The toughest schedule in the league. I mean, I think it's a possible 1-6 in conference schedule. 1-6. Out of conference, they have Sacramento State, they have Kennesaw State, Wazoo, Oregon State, and Stanford. I got to go under here for them, 4.5. I don't see them sniffing 4. And Steve, I am going to give my first Big Mountain ice cold lock on an under 4.5 for San Jose State. I'm sorry, Spartan fans, you lost your offense. Nothing against Coach Ken out there, but the schedule is rough.
Yep.
So I'm under with an ice cold lock.
Awesome.
Nevada, 2.5, very low. They're gonna struggle. They have a 13-game season, so the only Mountain West school that has a 13-game season here. Their out of conference is SMU, Troy, Georgia Southern, Minnesota, Eastern Washington, and Oregon State. Maybe they get one win there, but I'll tell you, Eastern Washington is not a team that people should be sneezing at. So I'm going under here for Nevada. I think they're sniffing 1 or 2 wins this year. I don't see them being above this 2.5. So I'm under for the Wolfpack going into this season. Last 4 here, Steve. Your favorite team.
All right.
The Lobos of New Mexico. Another team at 2.5. Surprisingly, a team that was 4-8 last year. Kind of got some wins and had a little bit of a good thing. I know you're not going to say it was a good thing, but for them, they started to get a little bit of a good thing going. But they have a harder schedule this year than they had last year. Of course, they have a ton of turnover. They're out of conference. Montana State, Arizona, Auburn, New Mexico State, and Wazoo. At home, they get YO Air Force and Fresno. So again, not an easy schedule. I'm under the 2.5 for New Mexico. I wish Bronco Mendenhall the absolute best down there. I think it's going to be a real struggle this year for the Lobos to be over that 2.5. So I'm going under. Let's get back on the over train, because I think it's more fun to pick overs.
That's rough, man. You got 2 teams at a 2.5 line,
And I'm
one
under.
Woo!
Well, New Mexico opened at 1.5.
Oh my
They
goodness.
opened at 1.5. When I took Boise at 8.5, New Mexico was at 1.5. It's now moved up to 2.5. Yeah. So UNLV is our next one. 7.5. Little surprised that it's this low, especially after the season that they had last year. I'm surprised that it's 7.5. I thought maybe they'd have an 8.5 here, but
I can almost guarantee you Vegas looks at it. They lost their starting quarterback,
Yep.
Maeva, and so they're just deducting a win or 2.
yeah. And 100%. I'm not going to give my preview away, but Maeva was a huge part of their success last year. But UNLV has no Air Force and no Wyoming. They do have Boise and Fresno both at home, which is a good thing. You don't want to go to either. I wouldn't say they have a huge home field advantage,
Right.
but Boise and Fresno do.
You'd much rather play them at
you
home
want
than
to
other
play them at
places, yeah.
home. So in terms of schedule, where they're being played and stuff, it's actually a pretty good item here. Out of conference, Houston, Utah Tech, Kansas, Syracuse, and Oregon State. The out of conference isn't horrible. Syracuse, Kansas, they'll be a little bit tough, especially with Kyle McCord going to Syracuse. That's a bit of a wild card. He's a very good athlete.
Syracuse has brought in a lot of talent in the transfer portal.
Yeah,
That
so
could be a tough.
that'll be a little bit tough. But I got to go over 7.5. Just seems so low for UNLV. They still have a very solid team there. They brought in more talent this year. Yes, their quarterback is changing, but 7.5 is too low. Go the over.
So real quick break. JEH, he's a great proofreader for us. He's saying the graphic for New Mexico showed 5.5. So let's just confirm the line is 2.5.
Oh yeah, the line's 2.5.
And you went with the.
I
under.
probably didn't change it when I was doing my graphic.
Okay. Yeah. So
So
sorry.
man, that's 2 strikes. Let's see if I get a 3rd strike.
So then just to confirm. So we said we confirmed the line is 2.5.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and you went with what? The under.
Under 2.5.
Under
It is
2.5.
2.5, and I'm under.
Okay.
Utah State, the big news coming out of there a few weeks ago with Coach Anderson being first, he was just kind of what was it? He wasn't fired immediately, but he was put on suspension or whatever it was
With the intent to fire.
Yeah,
or
with
something.
the and then of course we all know he's going to get fired, and so he did. They're at 5.5, and I was big on them. Early on, I really think they have a solid offense, but losing him, a lot of quarterbacks go there for Blake Anderson, and they have all of their quarterbacks are new, all of them. Their starters from last year, who I was big on, they left because they brought in new guys. So I don't know, really, I'm really going to have to figure this out before our preview episode. I'm still going to take the over for them. I just think they have too strong of an offense to not be over 5.5. They're out of conferences: Robert Morris, USC, Utah, Temple, and Wazoo. So a little bit of a mixed bag there in terms of who they have to play. They do have Boise, UNLV, and they're at Wyoming. So not a super easy schedule for Utah State. And if the whole coaching issue wouldn't have happened, I'd be much more confident in going over. I'm going to stick with the over. I'm just not as confident in it.
And the thing with Utah State, it's so I would be very nervous about betting them because you don't know, is this situation going to be like Northwestern last year where their new coach came in and, overachieved, brought that team together, or is it going to be like Michigan State where the team checked out mentally 2 weeks into the season and they just imploded?
And it could happen, I don't know. Clint, you're exactly right. Give Bronco a couple years. Nobody should be judging the Lobos this year on anything. Again, not a knock on them, but you can't judge them this 1 year. So let's get to the little bit of the homer pick that I have, which is the Wyoming Cowboys. But again, homer hats are off when we do our picks. Surprisingly low at 6.5. I picked this long ago as well. It's still at 6.5 at plus 108. It blows me away. I'm a hard over on this. This was the bet last year that I told everybody, bet the house, bet your mortgage, and there should be some people that have free houses right now, because if they listen to JY, they would have done it. I'm not betting the house this year, but guess what I'm doing?
Betting the shed.
No, I'm Big Mountain Ice Cold Lock with the Pokes. 2 years in a row. Bam, got to do it. I don't see them under 6.5. And we get into that a little bit with Ryan. Again, Ryan Thorburn was on just before we're doing our live episode. We had a talk with him, and we're going to be doing that preview next Tuesday. I think we're going to get that out next Tuesday. Really good stuff. And I'll just say he concurs with me that 6.5 is ridiculously low, and you kind of ask him about that, and you can hear his thoughts on that. But JY is saying Big Mountain Ice Cold Lock all day, over Wyoming. And I'll give it away. I think they're 8 to 9 wins this year. I think they're 8 to 9 wins. So you got a nice little slush number of wins that they can even have a 1 or 2 oopses, and you're still making yourself money.
I can't imagine them being less than 8 wins for sure. And I agree with you. Right in that 9-win range. If I was handicapping it, I would have the line probably at 8.5. That's probably where I would go, 8.5.
Vegas being who they are, they should at least have it at 7.5.
Right.
But yes, if I was making the line, I would make it 8.5. Yeah. But I still think they could be over with 9. So that's how confident I am in this thing.
And what we talked about in our other episode, people should definitely check that out because we go in depth about YO this year, talking about their offensive line, blocking scheme, changes to defense, changes in the coaching staff. Their quarterback, their running game. We really went into it in depth, so people should check that out. And what we talked about in that episode was, maybe just Vegas just saying, YO, they're normally a 6 or 7 win team, and kind of giving them a little disrespect. But honestly, it sounds like, and again, people should watch that episode, that they're happy being the underdogs, and they're happy that no one's picking them to win a bunch of games.
I like them being the underdogs too.
Yeah.
And so I see a couple comments regarding Utah State. And I don't want to give too much away because I want to save it for the preview.
Yep.
But I will explain why I have them over the 5.5 in that episode. There's some reasonings, and I'll tell you some of the teams that I think a lot of people think we will not be, that they don't think they're going to win, that I think they will win. I think there'll be games that I just have a difference of an opinion on. But the Anderson loss is huge, no doubt. What's Bill say?
He's calling you a YO homer.
Yeah.
You admit it. You got the YO shirt.
Not when I make betting picks.
Not when you make betting picks.
Not when I make betting picks. Every other time I am.
Right. And it looks like, is Bill a Boise fan?
Oh yeah.
And oh boy, you've been really working hard on the Boise coverage. Like the episode with, was it Ron?
Ron. Yeah, Bill, you're gonna love our episode. Drops on Monday. We got Ron Counts from Idaho Statesman, I think it is. On, and it's a good discussion, really good discussion.
And honestly, I think I know you better than almost anybody on the planet. Maybe not as much as your wife or your brother.
She knows me, okay?
Yeah, but I would say you're almost as you're. I would call you a closet Boise homer as well.
No.
Oh, I don't know.
No.
See, you're just not ready to come out of that Boise closet. But
you got to go there. I wouldn't say I'm a homer, but I can appreciate. We bang the drum at the national level. Yeah. I'm banging the Boise drum because it's Mountain West covered. So that, I think Boise will win the conference. Mm-hmm. And I want the Mountain West to get the CFP spot. Yeah. And I think Boise has the best chance. You think the Bulldogs do? Maybe.
Yeah.
One of the two.
One of the two.
And I'll bang who. I don't care who it is. I mean, it can be the Lobos. If the Lobos I think are going to win the conference, I'll be a Lobo homer that year because I want them to get to the CFP.
Well, Bill is looking forward to that episode. And he tells you
Get out of the closet. Don't worry, I'm not in the closet. My wife's upstairs.
You'll see that he has a.
He means the Boise closet.
Yeah, the Boise closet. You'll see that he has a Boise shirt on during that episode.
I do. I got it. I got to step up some of my game. I'm only about halfway there though. So, anyway, all right. Well, what's even worse than a Blue Talk BSU? Yes, I wear my blue pony shirt on that episode. So anyway. All right, I think that's it. Oh no, I know what we want to talk about, team previews, but we've already talked about that. It was, so again, we've said it a gazillion times. Let's see, what do we got? Tomorrow, Thursday, FSU with TJ and Doug, TJ Pittenger, Double Fries, and Doug Rohan. And then Monday, we just said it, but we got Boise with Ron Couts. And Tuesday, we've got Wyoming Cowboys with Ryan Thorburn. And I'm working on, I've been in communication with Fresno State. So we might be getting one out for Fresno. And I've reached out to a few more. I don't want to name them because I don't know if we're going to get to them. But I have made contact with someone for the Bulldogs. So maybe either late next week or the beginning of the following week, we'll get one out for the Bulldogs as well.
Yeah, and I think we should reiterate to everybody, again, one of the reasons we started this show was to make betting picks. And the plan is, going forward this year, every Wednesday night, there might be a couple Wednesdays if one of us is traveling. It might be a little harder. We have to do a different night. But the plan is for most Wednesday nights, do our live episode, do our weekly picks. I'm going to pick every Big Ten game and every Florida State game. JY is going to be picking every Mountain West game. And I think you're also going to be picking the Beavs and the Cougs.
I'm going to pick them.
Yeah, so we're going to be picking games every Wednesday. So watch our live shows to get those betting picks first. We're really looking forward to it, and we're 2 weeks from week 0? Is that
2 weeks from this Saturday? Yeah.
Yeah.
2 weeks and 3 whatever it is. I don't know. 17 days it was said.
It's going to go fast. I'm excited.
Tommy, I did reach out to UNLV. Actually, reached out to 2 individuals, waiting for a response. Would love to get somebody from UNLV on here as well, and there's a few more. So yeah, I'm trying. If they respond and they're interested, well, we're going to have them on, and if they're not, I get it. Everybody's busy. It's not a knock on anybody. And we're just 2 schmoes in a basement.
Yeah.
That's what we are.
All right.
So, hey, with that, we thank you guys for watching this. As we said, lots of cool stuff coming up over the next couple weeks as we gear up for week 0 and the start of the college football season. Make sure you give this one a like, subscribe. I'm sure you all already are, but subscribe if you like our content. Way more picks and ice cold locks to come. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.